Welcome to our Monday, July 15th school board meeting. We will start with our agenda approval, deletions, additions. Dr. Veraco.
Thank you, Mrs. Suze. We do have an agenda before you. There are a couple of revisions under Roman numeral 7B1. We've added the spring athletics report by Mr. Enyart. We've also added a code of conduct, which is an action item, updates that were sent to the board on July 12th. Also student handbook updates. They were also sent to the board last week. So that would be spring athletics report and then additional 4 and 5 to your agenda. Thank you.
Motion by Mrs. Kelly. Second by Mr. Marshall. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And I will turn it back over to Dr. Veraco for official school board business topics consent agenda.
Thank you. Seek the board approval for the minutes from our regular board meeting on June 10th. Also our special board meeting from July 9th when we reviewed board policies. Finally, seek board approval of the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures you received in your packets last week.
We have a motion by Dr. Malco and a second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none? Sorry. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And we have no public comments, so we'll move right into our official school board business topics regular agenda. Dr. Veraco.
Thank you. My first item is to have the board approve the policies that we reviewed back in April and then on July 9th. That list of policies is on page 1 of your agenda. Seek board approval of the policies in their entirety.
Motion by Mr. Marshall. Second by Ms. Kelly. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Dr. Malchow is abstaining, and those board policies are approved.
Okay, my second item is just to bring to the board's attention a memo that was sent by Terry Spradlin, Executive Director of the Indiana School Boards Association. He sent it to the State Board of Education. Dr. Jenner, as the Secretary of Education, is also the president of that board. And I was happy that when we met with Dr. Spradlin back on May the 22nd with Lake County superintendents, that we had a deep discussion about the high school diploma changes, and he has included several of the things we spoke directly to in his items to the State Board of Ed, including some pretty good questions that I hope they answer this Wednesday at 8 a.m. when the follow-up State Board of Education meeting is going to take place. So some of these great questions are: how will the rigor and quality of work-based learning experiences be monitored? Who will conduct and pay for the background checks of personnel interacting with students through these experiences? How will transportation needs of students to work-based learning be accommodated and funded? How will diplomas and transcripts be perceived by out-of-state colleges? And then a variety of other interesting items that I've highlighted for your review, but I just wanted to get it on the board's radar. We'll be sitting in on the 8 a.m. Wednesday morning meeting and certainly follow up at our first meeting in August to talk about what we hear, any adaptations or changes that they make based on the concerns of not just the Indiana School Board Association, not just Lake Central, but of educators across the state. My next item is to seek board approval for a professional leave request to head down to Indianapolis on Thursday to meet with Senator Durnall and Senator Rotz, the Senate Education Chairman. I'm going to be going down there with a half dozen other superintendents from Lake County, and we're going to talk not only about the high school diploma, but also second and third grade retention, and then we're going to talk about the true cost to educate students and some areas where the state's fallen short in their funding of public ed. So seek board approval for that down and back trip on Thursday.
Motion by Mrs. Kelly.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Talent. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you. Now on to why most of you are here. We got some special recognitions tonight, and our first recognition of the evening will be presented by Mary Reeby, Assistant Principal, and it has to do with the Harvard Book Award. So, Mary, if you would like to come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. The Harvard Book Award is an achievement award from the Harvard Alumni Association awarded to an outstanding high school student in the upcoming senior class who displays excellence in scholarship and high character, combined with achievements in other fields. The Lake Central Harvard Book Award is sponsored by Lake Central and Harvard alum Gwen Hockman Stewart and is being awarded tonight to Anya Villasencio. Anya?
And for our next item, we would like to have Chris Enyer, our athletic director, come up for some important recognitions.
Our first recognition this evening is from our wrestling program. Mason Jones had an amazing career here at Lake Central. This season, he finished his career at 39-1 with a state runner-up finish at the IHSA State Finals in Evansville. With him this evening is his family and Coach Trivline from the wrestling program. That was in the 106 pounds. Mason could tell you all the stories about the weight cut, but we won't let him tell you the misery he endured this season. But congratulations, Mason. The next program we're going to recognize, and I'm going to have the coach come up this evening to say a few words and help me out here, is our cheer team and Coach Loden.
The Lake Central cheerleaders won state in November in the co-ed division this year. We normally compete in two divisions. We compete in timeout, which we were third place, and in the co-ed, we came in state champions. Last year in the timeout, we were state champions and state runner-up in the co-ed. So we've had last 2 years, pretty successful. Besides winning this state tournament as a team, we had 4 of the senior cheerleaders named to the all-state cheer team, and they only picked 12 cheerleaders from across the state. And that was Emma Speck, Grace Swinarski, Carly Gabler, and Alex Brooks.
So, you want me to read them and you hand them to him? Or do you...
Sure.
All right, so our first individual is Logan Alvarez, Madeline Bickerstaff, yeah. Alexander Brooks. Carly Gabler. Emmy Gabler. Are you taking pictures or no? Maddie. Here you go. Here you go. Yeah, I filmed it. Aslan Hayes. Addison Karajas. Mary Keelan. Ava Martinez. Layla Mazora. Cadence Moore. Peyton Morris. Cameron Pancoast. Ginger Salentry. Savannah Snyder. Emma Speck. Grace Swinarski. And Stephanie Tuftedall. Is that everybody? All right. That's all our cheerleaders. Hey, Joan, I'll take the folder. Our next group, we're going to recognize our Centralettes. Coach Mathis wasn't able to be here. He just wanted me to say how proud he was of this group and always coming to practice, stepping up to the table, fighting through the injuries, and all the successes they had throughout the season. So for JV, they were IHS DTA champions in the POM and hip hop divisions, as well as national champions in hip hop. First, Jessica Cleghorn. Piper Connor Love. Alyssa DeSanto. Kate Kudreski. Marina Coxidis. Devin Magnuson. Megan McCloskey. Sydney Rippey. Congratulations. Lily Trinkle. Gabby Waters. And Tessa Wilson. And for the varsity Centralettes, they are IHS DTA state champions in all three divisions, jazz, pom, and hip hop. And they were also national championship champions in the pom division. And our first Centralette is Bryn Burwanger. Brooke Boggs. Natalie. What is it? She's not here. Addison Bergva. Ira Sharon. Lila Durolf. Cassie Kawasinski. Sophia Kaminsky. Haley McCoy. Simone Mercer.
Congratulations.
Abiola Dende. Alexander Rhodes. Taylor Rippey. Sophia Sabo. Abby Samaga. And Amira Youssef. Next is our girls basketball program, and Coach Tuppenthal is going to join me on the stage.
First of all, just to sum up our season a little bit, we ended up 25-6. We went on a 6-1 postseason run and made it to the state championship game. Obviously, got the runner-up trophy, which we will take. It was a great run. I'm fortunate enough to have 5 of our 6 seniors here. This is a bad time of year for us because all our younger kids are all over the country. Bryn just got back from Louisville, so she is the only one of our younger kids that are here tonight. But I was able to get 5 of these seniors here. And I just want to talk about these kids a little bit. Those 6 seniors that we are losing this year had a combined GPA of 3.83, which is very, very special to me. So congratulations to those guys. All 6 of them are going on to further their academic careers at college. Riley, Anaya, and Nadia are going to continue at Purdue Northwest. Melissa is going to Purdue, and Kennedy Burks is going to IUPUI. The last senior who is not here, who can be with us, Faith Harrison, is going to Texas Southern. And like I said, our younger kids aren't here. They're in Louisville, Ohio, Texas, and Florida right now on the AAU circuit. So extremely proud of these girls. And then I couldn't have done this without my staff, who are so, so dear to me. Ricky Gard, Ashley Michalski, and Janelle Kapelinski. And I would just like to thank the community. That run was great. It was something that I can't explain from us and those kids what it was like. So thank you. You want to read them or you want me to? You can, just the ones that aren't just here. Okay.
As Coach said, a lot of them are off traveling. So first is Caroline Archer, Anaya Bishop, Kennedy Burks,
I'll step back.
Nadia Clayton, Faith Harrison, Alexi Wima, Ayla Krieger, Bryn Leonard, Milica Lukic, Riley Milosnik, and then Alexander Mizak, Kaylee Skirka, Emma Zaney, and Vanessa Wimberly.
And then one last thing, we did win the award at the state finals, and I want Kennedy, come here. Kennedy won the Mental Attitude Award, which is a special award in Indiana high school basketball. So congratulations to Kennedy.
And our last program being recognized this evening is going to be our baseball team, and Coach Schwartztruber is going to come up.
Hey, if you guys want to move to along that wall, that'd be perfect.
I'll go ahead and start. First, I want to thank the administration and all the board for having us. This is awesome. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our season as well. This was my 8th year here at LC, 7th if you don't count our COVID season in 2020. And we'd done just about everything you can do baseball-wise except win a state championship. It's always one of our goals when we start the season. You know, the dynamics of this group was a little different this year because we'd heard for 9 months that we'd lost too many seniors the year before. LC was going to have a down year. And anybody who followed us into the Tennessee to start the year and watched us play the first few weeks probably agreed with them. It was a little shaky to start. But the thing that really stood true with these young men is that they kept believing in the process, the plan that we put together day in and day out at practices and games. They trusted each other. They trusted the coaches. They kept with it. They kept with it. They kept with it. And when you get in a state tournament, to win 7 games, you have to have a little luck. You got to get a few calls. But you have to have a very good team that can put consistent play together for 7 games. And that's exactly what we got from these young men. You know, baseball is a little different because our season ended middle of June. You know, so these guys are out of school. And so, you know, the kind of the hoopla of winning a state title, you don't kind of have the same as if you'd win in the winter or the fall, because all these guys go every different direction. This is the first time I've seen some of these guys since we won on June 15th. And I savor every moment with these guys. They can tell you I'm kind of a sap. I get emotional, so I'm going to try to not do that tonight. Because I think we're only going to be together 2 more times after tonight. We'll be together on the 29th at our banquet, and then whenever we get our rings sometime down the road. So these types of nights, I can't thank these guys enough. These 22 young men that were rostered for the state tournament put things on the line every night for their school, their community, their families, their coaches, their teammates, and I can't thank them enough. We finished 25-9. I think we won our last 9 or 10 games. We outscored our opponents 36-4 in 7 state tournament games. It was really a pretty dominant run for the most part. It culminated with a win over the number 1 team in the state in Indianapolis, Mooresville. It was the longest game in state finals history. The number 12 was mentioned to me several times. 2012 was the last time Lake Central won a baseball state title, which was, I guess, 12 years ago. The game ended almost at 12 a.m. You know, it just a lot of 12s going at it. I know there's another one. I don't remember what it was. There was a number 12, but that's what happens when you get old. What? 12 innings. There you go. Thank you. How could I forget that, right? So, without further ado, I also want to thank Mr. Enyart and Athletics. You know, we have, and all you guys for providing us. You know, Lake Central is, I think it's one of the 3 or 4 top jobs for baseball in the state, maybe number 1, because of the support, the facilities, the stuff that's put into the program. You know, I want to thank the coaches who are here tonight. Coach Novosel, who's been with me every year but one. Coach Mack, who's been with me this entire time. Coach Keelan, who joined us this year. Coach Vanderlee. Coach Mahalik and Coach Falk could not be with us tonight. Our manager, Grayson, who's always doing a great job keeping me on my toes, so I appreciate that. And then, of course, these 22 young men who made history. Congratulations.
That's all the coaches' certificates. I'll hand these to you as I call them. Coach Schwarzenegger was pretty modest. The one thing he left out is there was history made in that game, not just because it's the longest game, but he was the first coach in IHSA history to win a state championship in baseball with 2 different schools. So if we can have the coaches come up, Coach McNamara, Coach Keelan, Coach Vanderlee, Coach Novosel, and Assistant Coach Grayson. Okay, I'll read them and I'll keep the certificates. Or I'll give them to you. Yep. So for our athletes, Drew Arnold. Colin Sirks. Tyler Colburn. Alex Cuevas. Ryder Fernandez. Jacob Fig. Josh Flores. Luke Hallfelt. Dylan Hine. Drew Kostiva. Grant Mercer. Zach Nicola. Quinn O'Brien. Luke O'Keefe. Nick Robinson. Parker Robinson. Blake Sivak. Brendan Smith. Michael Zakowski. Griffin Tobias. Victor Villegas. And Jacob Zimmerman.
I also wanted to add, today's also a special day. Today was the Major League Baseball professional draft, and one of our players was fortunate enough again. This makes 2 years in a row, and he's going to the same team that Josh Adamczewski went to last year. 9th round pick this year by the Milwaukee Brewers, Griffin Tobias.
I'll give those to you for the
Perfect, thanks.
picture. Gonna try to figure out a picture. All right. Take a couple steps back. First group's got to take a knee. There's too many of them. First group's got to take a knee. I'll take a knee. Rest of you step in, fill the gap. Fill the gap. There, got them lined up for you. You're off. Parents, one picture. Stay there. All right, good. Congratulations. You guys acting like a bunch of. I'm getting up off the ground. Yeah. No. And no, I'm going to take a picture out there so we can get started. Okay. If Mason and Luke, I'll meet you guys out there to get a picture with you two together.
At this time, if anybody wants to depart to get on to other things, we understand. You're certainly welcome to stay for the remainder of our business meeting of the school board. Thank you all for coming out. Congratulations on some great accomplishments.
Hey, Mr. Enyart.
And now we will move on to our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Castaneda. Oh, back to Mrs. Castaneda, excuse me.
Thank you. For my first item, I'd actually like to bring back up our athletic director, Mr. Enyart, to do the high school spring athletics report.
Yeah, nobody look at. So, no, it was, spring season review. Usually it's done in June, but we had obviously baseball went pretty far, and it's now in July. So, our student athlete participants this year, we had 119 girls, 207 boys, for a total of 326. And the big discrepancy there is track. Girls had about 50 participants, boys had 104. So. In the conference standings, our softball team finished first. They were undefeated. They were actually undefeated all season long until their last game of the regular season in Marist. Tennis finished fifth, and girls track were second. For the boys side, baseball finished third in the conference, golf finished third in the conference, and track finished sixth. And boys volleyball, this was the second season. And next year, they will begin, along with girls wrestling, being official IHSA sports. In the postseason, on the girls' side, they were softball sectional and regional champions. They lost in the semi-state in a rainy game. Girls tennis lost in sectionals, and girls track won the team sectional championship and finished second at regionals, and we had a few state qualifiers make it down the state. For the boys, we already talked about them. Obviously, state champions, 2-1 in a great game. It was a long game, but it was worth it at the end. Boys golf advanced to the regionals. They were 3 strokes off of advancing to the state finals as a team. So they're right there. And next year we got a lot coming back. We're hoping to get back to the state finals with our our golf team. And in boys track, we did have several participants advance to the IHSA state meet. Placing at the state, you got to finish in the top 9 to medal. We did not achieve that this year, and we'll keep working for it next year. And then unified sports, they're progressing. It's a great time. I started that program when I got here, coached it for a couple years. Probably the most fun I ever had in coaching. There's bad moments, but not a bad day when you're working with that group of kids, and to see kids with disabilities and kids without come together in a unified setting was just awesome. But this year they finished 4th at the IHSA sectional meet. Top 2 move on to the regionals, so they're creeping up, and but it's not always about wins and losses. It's about the experiences they achieve, and I think any kid that's a part of that unified track team gets something that you can't ask for in any other sport. And then the next page is our income, gate receipts. We had $41,646 in gate receipts this spring. Fundraising and fees were $160,035.14, and concessions brought in $13,701.50 for a total of $215,382.64. And as I always say, I think at every time we do this, we try, whatever we bring in for the kids in the programs, we try to put back to them. So we're always trying to match that as close as we can. Game workers were $10,400. Officials, it's not getting any easier to find them, and it's not getting any cheaper to hire them. So they were at $31,206.81. Field and facilities, not much going on there in the spring, but we did do $7,580.04, where $6,924 is going to pull a fiber line for the football field video board. Right now it's wireless, so it's kind of limited on what you can do compared to what's outside and what we have in the main gym. And me and the Lake Central Football Club, Booster Club, joined together and split the cost of pulling the fiber line and converting that board to a full functioning board, so we can be more instantaneous with graphics and publications, and maybe even stream some games on there while it's live on the field once we figure that out. Equipment and team gear is $132,396.14, and most teams' fundraisers cover the costs. There's not many teams that charge kids on top of the fundraiser. They try to make the fundraiser, as long as it meets all the needs, it covers all the team gear that those kids get back from it. So miscellaneous, that's just the paper, the printers, the toners, flowers. We did have a few people associated with athletics pass away. But that was $15,493.13, and concession expenses were $9,222.16, for a total of $206,298.28. So again, it was a great year for Lake Central Athletics. We had a lot of great teams, and a lot of people do it, and we just keep building for the future.
Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Enyart. For my next item, I am seeking the board's approval for the personnel recommendations.
Motion by Ms. Kelly. Second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. For my second item, I'm seeking your approval for the professional leave request.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, and I will second that. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. For my fourth item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the code of conduct, which was sent to you last week.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, second by Mr. Marshall. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
And then for my last item, I'm seeking the board's approval for a small student handbook update. Per Indiana law now, students are prohibited from using wireless communication devices during instructional time unless approved for specific instances. And so we would like to add that language to the handbooks that have already been approved.
Motion by Dr. Malco. I'll second that. Second by Ms. Kelly. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to our Director of Primary Education, Dr. Bracy.
Good evening. I would like to say thank you to Michelle Snow for administering high ability testing this summer for us. We had 15 out of 31 students either qualify for the first time or have an academic area added to their high ability status. Any questions on my first item? Okay. For my next item, I would like to say thank you to Kim Yelich, Sherry Cassius, and Sherry Venturelli for administering our early entrance to kindergarten assessments this summer. Of the 26 children tested, 4 of them qualified for early entrance into kindergarten, and I must say that the window is now closed for that testing. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to our Director of Secondary Education, Mrs. Schoeneman.
Thank you. For my first item, I'm seeking board approval for the professional leave requests that are included in your packet.
Motion by Mr. Marshall. Second by Ms. Talent. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my second item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the field trip requests also included in your board packet.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, and I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my third item, I will just provide the board with a brief recap of our secondary admin summer professional development, also called Admin PD Week. So the secondary administrators, we actually had the opportunity to welcome in Rhonda Rose, who is a consultant now, but formerly a principal and then director of middle schools in New Albany, Floyd. And Rhonda actually wrote the book, The Deliberate and Courageous Principal, and she comes around and consults and offers professional development based on her leadership concepts, and she actually developed those as part of her work at Indiana State University. I've been following her for some time, and mostly because she has a laser focus on student learning. And so we brought her in, and we worked together as a full admin, secondary admin team, and it was just an excellent time of collaboration and strategizing as we prepare for the new school year, and just to maintain that focus on excellence in Lake Central and student learning, and what is the evidence of that? What do we want students to know? How do we know if they know it? What are we going to do about it if they don't? So that was the focus, and I'm just really proud of all of our administrators for, as her book is titled, The Deliberate and Courageous Principal. We've got them here, and I'm very proud to say that and to just be on the team with that. So I would call it a successful Admin PD Week.
And now on to our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Brumala.
Thank you. My first item is to seek approval for the professional leave requests that were included in your packet.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, and I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
So my second item is to just update the board on some PD we held at the end of June for our principals and assistant principals. John Purcell, who is a retired principal and is now a consultant with the Indiana IEP Technical Assistance Center, came in to work with our principals. Dr. Bracey and I had seen him present this spring, and both felt like it was information that needed to get back here to the district as well. So he presented on a systematic approach to positive student behavior, and what was really exciting about it is everything he talked about behavior mirrored what Dr. Rose had talked about with academics. So our principals had heard it from the academic side, and then he asked those same questions. What do we want them to know? What do we do when they know it? And what do we do when they don't know it related to behavior? So he talked about identifying processes and procedures, and then really tying those to your behavioral expectations for students and deliberately teaching the students those expectations and coming back and reviewing them when we see that they aren't doing what they need to do. So the principals were given time to discuss data sources they have to really identify where their behavior issues might lie. They looked at parts of the day where their procedures are strong and also parts of the day that maybe they need some improvement on. And it was nice for them to be able to work in groups and talk about, I worked with the elementary principals, and for them to be able to share what different buildings were doing. Some of our principals are calling in behavior teams to get together this summer to look at processes and doing things a little bit differently. So we got great feedback from the principals, and I'm hopeful that it will lead to some changes and improved student behavior this year. For all, yes, this is for all students. He works through the Indiana IEP TA Center, which is they're out of Indiana State. I'm honestly not sure. I could find that out. Yes, I do believe he was in Indiana. Sure. Thank you.
You tweaked an interest in me. Is there any supplemental material or references you can send to us?
Sure. I have his PowerPoint slides that he used for the principal, so I can pass that on to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And our Director of Facilities, Mr. Ledger.
Thank you, Mrs. Seuss. I have a brief update on the two main projects and then several action items. On the Bivich building project, we're coming right along. Basically, everything's done on that side of the project. All the paving's done. 90% of the landscaping's done. All the curbs are done. We have a little bit of trees to plant along the west side by the diocese property, and we're installing kitchen equipment and serving lines in the cafeteria. That's what's, and we took 6 semi-loads of furniture last Monday, and there it's being stored in the cafeteria, and we're going to start installing furniture a week from today. So on the mechanical side of the project, there's still a lot going on. As you know, you were there last week. We've got pretty much now all the grid done except for the library and the music and computer lab, and the library will be done first thing tomorrow morning, and we're putting some ductwork in the computer lab and the music room. That's coming tomorrow. So by Wednesday we should have all the ductwork done and all the grid done by Friday. That's the goal, to have all the grid done by Friday. We have startups scheduled for next week for all the air handlers. The chiller has arrived. We're piping all that right now. All the switchgear arrived right before the holiday, and we had a big outage the week of the 4th, and we're on full power now. All the air handlers are set, and we hope to start turning over classrooms to clean as of tomorrow morning. And our goal is to have 24 classrooms for the furniture guys by Monday, and that's the goal. So, and then we'll start turning them over left every other day probably. On the fourth grade wing, we have an extra, which you'll see here on the agenda. We've ripped out all the carpet there, and we're prepping for VCT floors there. So it's quite busy over there, as you've seen, and it's going to continue that way for the next 3 weeks. So, any questions on Bibbage? After August. High school freshman center, as you saw over here, it's kind of the same scenario, except for we're actually doing startup of all the equipment here on Wednesday and Thursday. All the air handlers are set. All the rooftops are set. So startup's coming on Wednesday. We've turned over the one pod downstairs last week. It's all cleaned. We turned over the other pod downstairs today. They'll start cleaning that tomorrow. We've got 2 pods to go upstairs, and we should turn over the first one next about a week from today, and then the last one probably the following week. So they're going to start already putting furniture in what will now become TAP, I think, this week. So we're going right along there as well. So far so good there as well. Any questions on that? Now I have several change orders since we haven't met for a while, so bear with me. My first one is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 2 to Site Services in the amount of $41,260. That is coming out of contingency, and behind the fourth grade wing along the playground, it used to be concrete, and it was all torn up, even especially after construction. So we tore all that out and repaved it, so it looks really nice now. So that's what that is for.
A motion by Mr. Marshall and a second by Dr. Malco. All in favor? Motion passes.
The next 2 items are basically just a transfer of costs because of some scheduling. The first one is to award and execute change order number 1 to Kevin Nugent, Inc. for $17,136, and that's to pour the chiller pad. We've been fighting hard with the manufacturer to get the chiller, and we could get it, but we needed the pad to cure, and the people Circle R had couldn't do it in a timely fashion, so we took it from them and put it on Nugent. And the next item will be a deduct from Circle R for the exact same amount, $17,136, and that would be change order number 1 to them.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, second by Ms. Talent. All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 5 to Larson Danielson Company. And that is for what I spoke about earlier, to take out all the carpet in the fourth grade wing and install VCT and vinyl base for $45,780. Again, that will come out of the project contingency.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, and I will second that. All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 2 to Reichel Plumbing for $4,030, and that's to replace the 25-plus-year-old water heater in the fourth grade mechanical wing. Again, that will come out of project contingency.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, second by Mrs. Talent. All in favor? And I will abstain. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 3 to Reichel Plumbing for $3,300. We had to reroute some storm piping in the cafeteria due to some conflicts of some ductwork and some steel structure. Again, that will come out of the project contingency.
Motion by Mr. Marshall, second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor? Any opposed? And I will once again abstain. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 4 to Sweeney Electric Company for $36,757, and this is for a projector microphone system for their cafeteria, and again, that will come out of project contingency.
Motion by Ms. Kelly, I will second that. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Last one for Bibbage, to seek your approval to award and execute change order number 6 to Larson Danielson Company in the amount of a deduct of $34,099. This is some landscaping adjustments we did on the west side along the property line, and this is to meet what there was a little mix-up understanding with the architect on what I had agreed to with the Gary Diocese. So we got that resolved, and it's going to give us a credit here.
Motion by Mr. Marshall. Second by Ms. Kelly. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Now I'm moving on to the Freshman Center. Seek your approval and award and execute the allowance authorization and change order number GC 102 to Arctic Engineering for the Freshman Center, and we are adding lights that were not shown on the plan in room E120. That will come out of the contingency as well for $7,655.75.
A motion by Mrs. Talent. I will second that. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is to seek your approval and award and execute SAI change order GC 1-003 to Arctic for the Freshman Center, and this is to add lights on E104 and E105 in the amount of $7,176.75. Again, that wasn't shown on the plan. We had the room torn apart. We thought it'd be a good idea to get those lights in there as well. And again, out of the project contingency.
Motion by Mr. Marshall. Second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Last but not least, I seek your approval to award and execute SAI change order number GC 1-004 to Arctic Engineering. And this one here is for roof hydrants that we could service all this equipment on the Freshman Center roof. And this is for $18,808.11. And again, that's for 3 roof hydrants on the Freshman Center roof.
Motion by Ms. Kelly. Second by Mr. Marshall. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
He did 3 and 4 together.
That was the one where we just transferred costs. Yes, yes, sir.
So, Mr. Ledger, what does SAI stand for?
Schmidt Associates Inc.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Our Director of Business Services, Mr. James.
Thank you. Each year, our food service department has to determine if we need to raise prices for student meals for breakfast and lunch. Anyone who receives federal dollars has to go through this formula and steps to see if we're keeping up with the costs and not just kind of using federal dollars to supplant the costs. So the good news is that the calculation has determined that we do not need to raise our prices for student breakfast and lunch for this year. So in your board packet, we show what the prior year amounts were, and so I seek your approval to keep the rates the same as they were for last year.
Motion by Ms. Kelly. Second by Mr. Marshall. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to ask you to turn to the 2 handouts that I left at your stations. If you look at the top left-hand corner, one says fiscal cash flow for the education fund. So we're going to start with that one first. June 30th was the end of our fiscal year. And so this data on here is for our fiscal year of July of 23 through June of 24, and all months are actual revenue and expenses. So this is the education fund. This pays for all of our classroom expenses and teachers and aides and everything going with actually delivering the curriculum. And so you can see on the top portion where we have the revenue, in the fund as a whole, we had, if you look on the far right, $71 million worth of revenue into the fund. And if you add those first three lines together, which is all the basis for your tuition support, that's over 70 million of the 71. So in essence, showing that our funding for our education fund is mainly based out of the school funding formula that's adopted by the General Assembly every 2 years. On the expenditure side, we have mostly, as you can see, the different line items are salaries and the corresponding benefits that go along with it, either being TRF, retirement, health insurance, and so forth. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner to see how we operated for the year, we were just under $2.7 million to the good. Normally, we do not like to be that high and have as much of a profit. We don't want to run the red, but we're not here to stockpile dollars. We're here to put money into the classroom and our staff. That being said, when the General Assembly passed the 2-year budget last year, the first year was front-loaded pretty heavy for the funding, and we were only expecting about a 1% increase in funds for the second year. Knowing that we want to still be able to give all of our staff a pay increase for this year, we purposely held money back during negotiations last time, knowing that we wanted monies here. Additionally, we had higher than normal claims, I'll say, for our health insurance, and that has become one of our biggest things that we have been trying to tackle along with the benefits committee. That is going to be excuse me, that's going to be another issue this year. We made benefits to the contributions from both the employee side and the contribution side last year, hoping that would ride the ship. Unfortunately, we have some people who've gone through some pretty tough situations and costly claims, but that's what the insurance is for. And so we're glad that they can get the assistance that they need. So we know that we're going to have to probably put additional dollars from the corporation into health insurance again next year. What that is, we'll get down that road here in the next few months, working with the negotiating team and with the insurance committee. So just to show again that the money's there. One thing that I want to bring to your attention down to like the last line in the expenditures, you'll see $1.4 million. That is money that we transferred from the education fund into our curricular materials fund here in June. That fund's been in the red ever since I've been here for 14 years, and we've been trying desperately to try to get that into the black, and we were making strides. And then this year, we only got 2/3 of our reimbursement from the cost from the state for the curriculum materials grant. So we were out $700,000. We were short. To forewarn you, the same thing's going to happen this next school year. So we were close. We were making strides, man. But this 1.4 was part of our budget for last year at this time when we I'm not expecting you to remember, but at the budget process last year, we passed a resolution to move up to $1.8 million. I'm glad it's only been 1.4, and hopefully by the end of the year, and we won't have to move any additional dollars at that point. That curricular materials fund is going away effective January 1, in which the approximately $2.2 million worth of expenditures that we annually run through there is all going to start running through our education fund beginning in January. So when I do my budget presentation in September, you'll see a higher amount for the ed fund in calendar year 25. Theoretically, we're also getting the revenue on the other side. Unfortunately, at least for one more year, it's still going to be a shortfall. So that is something that is different this year than what we have experienced in the past. But overall, I'm glad that we ran as we did. So before I move on to the next page, any questions on that? Okay. So the next one is very similar, except this spreadsheet takes into account not only our education fund, but our referendum fund, our operations fund, and the monies we have sitting in rainy day. And really, with the way the funds are all interacted now, adding these four funds together is really more of a true reflection on how the school district operated, not only from our tax money, but from the state tuition support as well. So, again, if you jump right to the bottom right-hand corner, when you take all those other funds together, we were over $7 million to the good. But again, we have many people and employees for salaries-wise and healthcare-wise who are not paid in that education fund, and we need to make sure we held money back to for that purpose. So we'll see. One of the other big things is here in July, we make our annual contribution for our teachers into our 401A and VEBA. And you can see in the first column, July of 23, about halfway down, that was about $1.6 million last year. We're pretty close to finishing those calculations, but given that people had pay increases and it's based on their base salary, I've budgeted more over 1.7 for that. So right off the bat, that's $7.8 million figure, and you could take 1.7 off of it because by the end of the month we'll be spending that. So, but overall we are running well, and then we'll see how this next year plays out. We have through Sarah's office and HR really been looking at our numbers for our staffing. Every time something comes up, her working with the principals, and I believe we absorbed 11 positions so far for the upcoming year without materially increasing class sizes. So, you know, when we're looking to be down 300 plus students next year, we have to be proactive and start cutting those costs, because you lose 300 plus kids at $6,800 each. You know, that's actually, we're looking at operating with less revenue this upcoming year than we had prior years. We've always had some declining enrollment, but usually the increase in the amount per kid would offset the amount in less revenue with the student decline. This year is going to be the double whammy. We're not getting an increase in the amount per kid too much, and then we're looking at being down 300 kids. So I'm not going to throw a dollar figure out there, because we're going to see how many kids keep coming between now and over the next month. So, but they look at it all the time, and that will help offset, because by not filling those roles, we will save money to offset the loss in revenue. So,
Yes, no cuts. These were people who chose to resign or retire, and then we analyzed the numbers with the building level administrator to make sure that class sizes would not go up, but then we chose not to fill those in order to kind of right size, since we know our student enrollment will be down.
Are we going to be able to provide a decent number of parapros in the classrooms?
we have not cut any parapros. We have not cut any parapros. So, in fact, those positions are hard to fill. So we're trying there too. So. All right. Thank you. Oh, and I do have one more thing. So we have our GEO bond that that the board authorized in the spring, and on July 9th we had the bond sale. The bonds were for actually $1.71 million. The resolution that was presented to the board was 1.8, but once we got the actual cost from the underwriters and the actual quotes on the buses that these are being used for, we did not have to issue as much, so less money borrowed. So we received 8 bids from various financial institutions. We were hoping that we're crossing our fingers, hoping the interest rate would come in under 5%, and the low bid came in at 4.2474. So we were very happy with that. In your board packet, I included the quotes from the 8 different bidders. They went from the 4.25-ish to almost all the way up to 5.74. So there was a wide range. So we're happy on that, and we are scheduled to close here at the end of the month on July 30th. And then the dollars will be here, and then we'll use that money to pay for the buses that we hope to get by the end of the year. So. Yes, yeah, we, because of this was a small issuance, we didn't want to pay S&P to do a new bond rating when we had a good rating last time, and it wasn't going to change the market on what type of interest rate we were get. So yeah, I think we're at a AA+ currently. So yeah, so. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, and I don't believe there's any public comments, so we'll move right into board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Mr. Marshall.
Can you hear me? Anyway, I want to thank our administration putting together a very nice recognition program this evening. There were a lot of smiling faces out there. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly. Ms. Talent. Dr. Malco. Yes, and I echo all that also. So with that, we'll turn it over to Dr. Rocco for board calendar of future activities.
Okay, our next meeting will be back in the K-Trap on August the 5th. That's also the first day of our new teacher induction. So I draw the board's attention to look out for an email, and we will invite you to come out and say hello to our new staff members who will be with us for the 5th and the morning of the 6th. So I'm not sure what our schedule is exactly, but we'll get it to you so you can see it. And then we're back on a normal twice-a-month schedule beginning in August. So, yeah, the summer's going fast. So the new school year is on our doorstep. So, Bill, don't slow down. Thank you.
He didn't hear you. Mr. Ledyard. He still doesn't hear us. All right, do we have a motion for adjournment? And do we have a second? We're adjourned.